Nick Waller. He joins us now from Rome. He's the managing editor at New Europe, an independent news agency. Nicholas, thanks for being with us. So what many analysts and people who've covered Russian campaigns in the past have said is that some of these things that we are seeing coming out of places like Bucha, like Mariupol, are very similar to what we've seen in the past in places, for example, like Chechnya. Was there ever any accountability for those incidents in the past, though?
No, there never was. And this is one of the reasons why the Russian military and the Kremlin are in a certain sense being able to get away with what they're doing now, and why they believe that this type of strategy is something that, yes, will look terrible to the international community, but ultimately there will be no punishment for it.
Right. So
in the cases of
why was there no accountability for these things?
well, this is a very long story, and one that I think a lot of us that have covered Russia and the former Soviet space for a long time have been trying to emphasize to our colleagues and others in the West that during those periods of time when there was conflict in Chechnya, in Tajikistan, in Georgia, in Moldova, there was never any real response. And one has to just simply go back to the period of time that those conflicts were taking place, which was in the 1990s, either immediately after the Soviet Union collapsed or towards the end of Boris Yeltsin's time in office, when Putin was starting to consolidate his power. The West was essentially, and the international community was very much kind of in tune with each other that, the Cold War was finished and all these complicated issues of territorial integrity and national identity and things were essentially not that important. And it was actually much better to take the line that, we were all sort of getting on and society was progressing. They had bungled and fundamentally failed, I would say, particularly in the case of the European Union, in its first real test as an entity in regards to the wars in the former Yugoslavia. Those became so bloody and so complicated and ebbed and flowed in such complicated ways that ultimately what ended up happening was trying to explain a conflict in Abkhazia, or two wars in Chechnya, which were far worse than anything that happened in the Balkans, was just something that was a narrative that they simply didn't want to take the time to sit down and talk to the international community and say, we need to do something about this, and we need an answer for this. And there must be a response that is overwhelmingly crippling for Moscow for carrying out these kind of wars.
Yeah, so if we're seeing this around the suburbs of Kiev and the Russian military didn't even get into the capital, now it's concentrating its firepower, at least it says it will, around the Donbass, you can imagine what that battle is going to be like. And the Ukrainian president has even warned his country that, look, we need to be prepared for this. But I mean, if what we're seeing now is even a small indication of what's going to happen there, that's pretty disturbing.
Well, and also I think it's very important to take into consideration that the Donbass essentially has been in a state of war for 8 years.
Right.
The Ukrainian forces that are there are very battle-tested, very hard-fighting, very well-trained, very dug in. This is one of the reasons why Mariupol is holding out for as long as it has. It has some of the most crack troops that the Ukrainians have that are there, and they will fight to the death. In regards to the Donbass, you're absolutely right. In the event that a major operation is launched by Russia into the Donbass, it will be very, very, very costly for them, to the point where I'm not 100% certain that they want to calculate just how difficult this will be. But on the other hand, you have to look at the number of casualties that the Russian army suffered just trying to take control of Grozny in 1995 and 1999, or go back to how many casualties the Red Army suffered when trying to capture Berlin in 1945, when Germany was already defeated. These sorts of things are just not a part of the psychology and war doctrine of the Russian military. They're willing to sustain these casualties.
All right. Excellent points. Nicholas Waller, always good to talk to you.
Sure. Anytime.